This is Dr. Chris's Radio Horror Show here at WCW, and tonight, accompanying the music that we're playing from the band, we have the last remaining member of the band, Witch Slayer, on the show with us. Thank you for joining us. Introduce yourself.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Jeff Allen. It's nice to be here. Nice to be talking to you.
Jeff, you're the singer for the band as well?
I am the lead singer.
Lead singer and guitarist?
No, the guitar player, I brought in a guy named Ken Mandat, who is known for his band called Damien Thorn.
Okay. But do you play any instrument in particular?
No, I don't. I'm just a lead singer.
That's so funny to hear the lead singer doesn't play any instrument. Usually the lead singer knows how to play one instrument.
Well, I've always wanted to have like a traditional four-piece, which is bass, drums, guitar, and a standalone lead singer. And that's the style I sort of evolved into. And in metal, I've always, unless I can really shred, I don't want to be playing any guitar. So that's why I brought in a really good guitarist in Ken Mandat.
How did the band get started? It goes all the way back into the 80s, correct?
It does. We were out of the Chicago suburbs in, 1980, 1981. A bunch of us all went to high school together in the northwest suburbs of Chicago.
Wow. I was born in 1980, by the way.
Great. Making me feel old. There were like a couple of high schools where a lot of the bands from that era all went to school together at the same time. Like Paul Speckman went to school when I was going to school, and the guys from Warcry and Thrust. We all were in a couple of high schools right but next to each other, and we were all in similar classes. And the original bass player, Sean McAllister, who eventually went to Trouble, he went to high school with me as well. So we all knew each other, and we all came out of high school bands. And I remember I was at a house party, and we had a pickup night. Everybody was just jumping in and jamming. And I jumped in on the mic, and I remember Speckman was on bass, and I think this guy, Tom McNeely, was playing guitar. I'm not sure he was playing drums, but we just started jamming out. And then afterwards, I was approached by this guy, Craig McMahon, who was the original guitar player with Witch Slayer. And he told me he was looking for a lead singer. And that's basically how the band started. And from there, we sort of pulled together a bassist, drums, and a second guitarist. And we started practicing in this guy's basement. And that's where we wrote Witch Slayer and I Don't Want to Die. And we were all like 18, 19 years old. So this is a long time ago.
The band's name, Witch Slayer, was that like influenced by the movie's name from like a many years ago? Because there was a movie called Witch Slayer as well.
No, that was we came up with that, and we were really into the band Angel Witch. I don't know if you're familiar with Kevin Hayborn and Angel Witch, but they had an album in 1980 that we absolutely loved and used to play the crap out of it. And I remember we were trying to come up with a band name, and coming up with a band name is not easy. And I don't know, it seems like Witch falls into a lot of band names, the name Witch. But we came up with Witch, and I remember McMahon, I think, was the guy who said, let's make it Witch Slayer. And this is not even knowing about the band Slayer or Witch, but I think Angel Witch factored into it, but somehow we came up with Witch Slayer. It just sounded good. So we went with that.
How many albums have you put out since 1980?
Just the one. We were an up-and-coming band back then. There really wasn't a metal scene in Chicago, and we were sort of pioneering it with a handful of other bands. And in 1983, we met Brian Slagle of Metal Blade Records. And Craig and I had been out in L.A. for a rock festival out there. And we just approached Brian Slagle point blank and just handed him our demo. And he put us on Metal Massacre 4. And we put out a 5-track demo tape around the same time. And we had intentions of doing a full-blown album. But one thing led to another. And after 4 years, the band just fell apart before we could get a formal album put out. And that's one of the reasons why this album came about, because I've always wanted to finish that album, because we had written about 15 original songs and we were performing them live, and but we never got that album out. So I tried for years to get the original lineup together, and it would always fall apart one way or another. I did get some more songs written in the process, but finally, about 5 years ago, I was talking to Ken Mandat of Damien Thorn, and I was telling him, I always wanted to put this album out, but I just couldn't get the right chemistry together. I've tried with other musicians and other places, and I could never get that Chicago metal sound right. So I knew if I did it, I had to do it with Chicago musicians. So I approached Ken Mandat, and he was up for it. Everybody seemed to be wanting to see a Witch Slayer album. So between he and I, we put this thing together over 4 years, and it's an interesting album because all the music was written in between 1980 and 1984, and then just archived, just never released after that. So we had the songs, we just had to put the band together and get the sound right, and get it done, and that's what we did.
What have you been doing since 1984 up until when you started resurrecting this album?
I was not in the music business.
Were you in like the real estate business? What happened? Where'd you go?
Personally, I was in tech. Went into tech, and I remember Craig McMahon.
And someone brings in their computer to ask you to repair it, and they're like, "I know you. You're from that band."
No, I was more writing software.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't that. But Craig McMahon wanted to move to L.A. and become like a Hollywood glam band, and I was not into that.
Like David Bowie?
No, like let's say like Wasp and Rat and that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. Because I think of glam bands, I think of David Bowie.
No, not that. I mean Bowie, yeah, original glam guy, but glam metal.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. It was an LA thing, if you ask me. Guys putting on the eyeliner and all that stuff. I mean, look at like Poison, how they were. That Poison's a classic glam. I don't know if I'd call them metal, but
I mean, I guess the way you're describing it, so is Kiss.
Kiss would definitely early '70s glam.
I mean, look at the way they dress and their makeup. It's like. You watch like Detroit Rock City, and they're like, the comments made about Kiss's makeup. I'm not going to make here on the air, but right up there with the way people thought of them as being like, fruitcakes in a metal band.
Yeah, they were definitely New York glam at that time, and they got everybody's attention. That's for sure. But so we were getting pulled in different. It was either one side of the band wanted to go extreme hardcore, like Slayer type of a sound, extreme hardcore thrash, and the other part of the band wanted to go to LA and just become an LA Sunset Strip band. And I was done at that point. If I couldn't do the right sound, get the right band, I was just done. And you got to understand, we were doing this for 4 or 5 years. We were rehearsing in a storage unit at one point, and we were rehearsing in my home and my family's home, and we broke our picture window because the bass vibrations were so intense, and so we were always trying to find some stability. And when we finally imploded, I was done. I was out of it. But then Craig did go to California, and Dale, the drummer, went to California, and Dale was recorded an album with a band called Rampage, and I don't think that album did very well. I don't think it went anywhere. And Craig got into this band he put together called Mandy Childs, and it was like Prince meets Motley Crue, and that's what he did. And he didn't record any albums either, and I think he did that for about 4 years, and then got out of the business. He eventually got into filmmaking, and who else? Oh, Rick Manson. Rick Manson stayed in Chicago, and I don't know if he was in a band called Mayhem, something like that. But Rick bounced around, and he told me recently he was in a Slayer tribute band. But once you get that chemistry with a bunch of guys, and you're rehearsing, and you got a good sound, and it doesn't work out, it's hard to start all over again. It really is. So, but anyways, I always wanted to put this album out, so that's what I did. And ultimately, I ended up being the only guy to do it. I tried over the years to get everybody involved, but it's just life that prevented these guys from jumping into it. I did get Sean to play bass on a couple tracks, and Sean helped me produce the album, so we kept it true to the sound of the 80s that we had.
So what's going to happen now going forward? Are you guys going to do another, start a brand new album, or are you just going to kind of ride this old album that is gotten a resurrection?
Well, we'll see. I know the band wants to play, and they have been rehearsing a little bit. Really, this project initially was to just get these songs recorded and put out there, and based on the reception, we'll see. I mean, I'm always, once you release this album, you're ready to start focusing on something new, because we have been working on this for 4 years, and once you get it out and get it done, you want to sort of do something else, and so I'm open for writing a second album, but we'll see. But I think right now it's more about just performing and promoting the album and trying to establish the band name again.
And all the lyrics on the album are pretty safe?
Yeah. The album was more written about, we would build songs off stories about the Salem witch trials.
Sure.
Read articles.
No reason to drop F-bombs about that? Unless you were there.
No, yeah. I mean,
you weren't there, so what are you going to curse and swear about? They didn't burn you at the stake.
Exactly. No, we always tried to make our album or our music sort of creepy in nature and haunting, nothing like derogatory. I hope it wouldn't be misogynistic if people read into our lyrics, because we do write about a lot of evil women in our music. We've always just tried to keep it cool. That's all.
In the last I don't know, so 84, the last 4 years ago, so just prior to COVID, you're sitting on this album, and were you always thinking I want to put this back together, I want to bring this back out, and then all of a sudden there's opportunity?
I thought the right.
Were you sleep at night, waking up in the middle of the night, being like, Slayer,
no,
Slayer,
it wasn't.
Witches? Every time you went to Salem, you were like, oh.
I wish I would have done that. No, it wasn't that intense, but it was always sort of regret, because I feel like when we broke up, we were really starting to take off. Looking back on it, we just didn't see it. I mean, the final straw, we were supposed to open for this band Accept at the Chicago Metro, and I really thought that was going to really elevate the band, because it was a high profile show, and we were there. We had been rehearsing and playing, and we were at our top of our game at that point. And Accept's roadies just killed it at the last minute, told us we couldn't go on stage. And I remember walking out of that, hearing the entire Metro chant our name, and people were pissed we weren't playing, and it was just a mess. And I think it just took the wind out of our sails at that point. It's just the final straw. But I had regrets, because I knew this album was good. I knew I had a really good album in me, and that we had vetted out and performed, and all we had to do was formally record it. But it had to be recorded right, or else it wouldn't sound as it did as it came out. But it bugged me. But it is what it is. It's just it was just the path life threw at me in regards to this.
Alongside working on this, putting the album back out, what are you doing these days? Are you still in the tech world?
I am. I am in tech, and the band is sort of a hobby, because it's hard to make money in music anymore. You have to just grind it out on the road if you're going to make any money. But yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. I'm out in Colorado now, and I'm working in tech, trying to wrap up that career, and doing Witch Slayer on the side. And that's about all I'm doing.
Well, I did wish that the rest of the band could have joined us, but I do appreciate you coming on the show. We'll be playing the album alongside the band. Where can people find more information about the band and any social media that you're on?
We are on Facebook at Witch Slayer Metal. We have a website as well, Witch Slayer, WitchSlayerOfficial.com, and you can hear the album on Bandcamp or really any streaming service, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. And we'll probably be playing a show at some point in Chicago. It's just working through the details of it. But we're pretty much out there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.